Number one, there's a lot of planning. So give our entire team a round of applause for putting this together. The second thing is, in order to make an event great, you gotta have the right people in the room, right? I'm sure a lot of you guys have been to events where you're like, dude, where am I at, right? How many guys were at VIP or MVP yesterday? Raise your hands. Were you in the right room? Did we have fun? It was a blast. So, you know, at the end of the day, kudos to you guys for making the investment to come out. I know it's not easy. I know most of you guys aren't even from Las Vegas. You know, how many of you guys are from the East Coast? Show of hands. I mean, that's a lot of people who flew a long ways to be here, right? How many of you are from Vegas? So, love my Vegas people, born and raised. But, you know, at the end of the day, you guys have made a time investment. It's the middle of the week. You know, you guys took work days off to be here. You guys have made a financial investment to be here. Like, it's not easy. So, the fact that you are here while other people are not shows where your mindset is. And that's what you have to do if you want to separate yourself. You've got to do things different than the masses, you know? Other people, I'm sure you guys know them, who, you know, are in your industry, who might be your competitors. They could have taken the time to come out here, but guess what? They're not, right? Maybe they didn't see the value, they didn't want to create the time, they didn't want to make the investment. Well, guess what? When you do things that other people are unwilling to do, you know what happens? You surpass them. You get ahead of them. You do the things day in and day out that others won't, you will win. There's no doubt about it, right? I'll tell you this, quick story before we get to our first speaker. You know, most of us are here because we want to build wealth. You know, whether it's through real estate, whether it's through our business, you know, creating content, social media, we're going to give you a ton of tools to build wealth at this event. But while you guys are learning these tools and you're hearing from these amazing speakers, I want you to think about one thing. Why? Why are you here to create wealth? What's the whole purpose behind it? And I can tell you this, for me, you know, my wife is 8 months pregnant, so I'm gonna have a third kid any day now, right? I was just praying like I could make it to this event. That was like my only prayer for the event. And, you know, my son was born back in 2019, in January of 2019. And, you know, he was expected to be born in March. So he was born 2 months premature. We had nothing ready. Baby room wasn't ready. We had never been a parent. You know, she tells me, like, it's a Sunday. I remember it so vividly. We're in the car, she goes, hey, I think something's like going on. I think we should go to the hospital. And I was like, all right, let's go get it checked out. Well, the doctor, you know, we go in and he says, hey, you know, she's having contractions, she's this much dilated. And honestly, I've never been a dad, right? I didn't know what that meant. Like, it sounds stupid now, thinking back at it. But it was one of the only times ever I was in my life, like, completely shocked. So I asked the doctor, I was like, hey, so when do we get to go home? He's like, dude, you don't get it. You're not going home. The kid is coming today. And we don't, you know, we're gonna do everything we can to slow it down, but the kid's coming today. And I was just like, completely shocked. I was like, my mind just kind of like, I usually can grasp things, but it was the first time in my life I just didn't understand what was happening. And within a couple hours, my son was born. And I'll tell you, before he was born, I was asking the doctors, I was like, guys, so I mean, this is really early. Like, is he gonna survive? Like, what's the situation here? And the doctor's like, we can't guarantee anything. And so, I'm like, all right, well, that's reassuring. So, you know, long story short, obviously he's born a few hours later, and for the next 2 months, he was in the NICU. So every single morning, after the gym, I had to go see him. And then every single night with Mindy, we would go see him. And he couldn't breathe, he couldn't eat, he couldn't do any of the basic functions. They told us he's gonna be delayed, they told us he's gonna have to be in therapies, he's gonna have to do all of these things. Well, After 2 months, they finally deemed him ready to go home. And I'll tell you, I was extremely scared because I didn't know if we were gonna bring him home and he could breathe or not. You know, he already had trouble breathing. He was already on these machines. And I'm like, are you sure we can bring him home? I'd rather keep him here because if I'm sleeping and something happened, I was really scared. And, praise God, everything, turned out safe. Obviously, he's had to go through therapies and all of these other things along the way. But it was during this time, as we have our first son, that I started to come up with this concept called the Wealthy Way. It didn't have a name, it didn't have, any kind of meaning yet. But it was during this time that I realized, man, I almost lost my son. Life is worth so much more than just business, I would trade any amount of money to make sure I remember making that deal with God. I was like, just make sure he's okay, I'll trade whatever you want. I'll give up the business, I don't care. And it was during that time that I had to really start systemizing my business because my wife was having a tough time, raising him and going through just all of the things. It was such a hard year as parents. But I figured out how to do it. One day at a time. We just kept putting processes in place, we put systems in place. I was able to work from home on Wednesdays, and we were still getting deals and the business was still running, even though I wasn't as present because I was busy being a dad. Well, fast forward, at the end of the year, about a week before Christmas, my son falls off the couch, bumps his head. And he's got this big old bump on his head, so we take him to the hospital. They tell us, hey, he's probably fine, he's acting normal. We're like, all right. 2 days later, we look at him and we're like, he's not fine. So we go to a different hospital. Other hospital says, we gotta get him x-rayed right now. I go, okay. So we get him x-rayed, they're like, his skull is fractured and he has a brain bleed. He needs to go into brain surgery right now. And I was like, wow. So I go, same thing, deja vu, doctor. What's the odds, of a less than a 1-year-old having brain surgery? He's like, I can't tell you. So once again, I'm going through this same thing, and I'm like, all right, seriously, none of this other stuff matters. This is what's important. I'll make any deal, I'll do whatever you want me to do, just make sure he comes out of this. It was the longest night ever. We prayed, the surgery went on, they flew in this surgeon, special brain surgeon, and thankfully everything went great. And the surgery was successful. 2019, we get to take him home for Christmas. That was how our Christmas was. So it was a great Christmas for us. But throughout all of that, it just taught me that no matter how much business success I have, no matter how much social media success I have, if you don't know why you're doing it, it doesn't matter. And on top of that, I had the privilege to be able to actually be with my family during that time. Because if I didn't have a business that had systems, processes, people, there's no way. I would have to go work my W-2. Or for many of you solopreneurs, you can't stop working. The money will stop coming in, right? So I want you to know, when you hear these speakers, when you hear what I talk about later today, it's not about building systems and everything to make more money. You absolutely will do that. But it's about building that so that you can start making money while you're not working. That's what building a real business is all about. That's what owning assets is all about. So for those of you who are here, how many of you, is that what you want? How many of you realize that's what it's all about? Okay, so I want to share that story because I don't think I've ever shared it publicly on the WealthCon stage. So they told me dude, you got to get more vulnerable with the people and tell them. So that was tough for me. So thank you. So my hope is, as I'm choosing to become more uncomfortable and be more vulnerable, that you guys would do that too. Get out of your comfort zone today at the event. These next 2 days are going to be amazing. I'll tell you, as I get ready for the next speaker, 2 things have changed my life, okay, in terms of business. Number 1 are events, and number 2 is real estate, okay? On the event side, I've been to so many other events, we've held so many events. Just off the top of my head, I can tell you, I've met a guy who's now running our TV commercials for our house flipping business. I met him at one event, and since then he's run probably $1 million worth of TV commercials for us that have made us millions. I met my friend Kong. Any of you guys know who Kong is? King Kong? Okay. So, back in 2020, I met him at an event for the first time. He was like, bro, you need to do this TikTok thing. I was like, why? Nobody's on that thing. He's like, no, trust me, you need to do it. I would have never did TikTok or any of that stuff unless I was at an event and he told me to do it. And he wasn't a speaker or anything. He was just somebody in the event like you. You're gonna hear great things from the speakers, but you're also going to learn a lot here from the people at this event. I was at the MVP day yesterday, and I asked the room to raise their hand. I go, how many of you guys are making over 250 grand a year? And 80% of the room raised the hand. 80%. So I'm gonna ask the room here, how many of you guys are making over 250K a year? Okay? It's a high level room. To be in a room where there's that many people doing it is pretty incredible. And if you notice, most of them are in the front. There's a correlation, right? The people who are making things happen, they're around other people who are making things happen, okay? So you want to do your best to get around those kinds of people. In another event, they saw the clip of Patrick Bet-David up here before I came up. I met him at an event, I saw him backstage, had no idea who I was, introduced myself, then sure enough, a month later, I'm at his office, we're friends. You just never know who you're gonna meet at the events. I've met private money lenders, my partner Brian DeVilla, a wealthy investor, he attended my first event ever. Now we're partners. The list goes on and on. So I want you to know, take this room very seriously. Don't just check out when you're, at lunch and all this stuff. I'm actually gonna give a really good presentation on how to get the most out of events later today. And I think you guys are gonna really enjoy it. How to actually be strategic with networking and everything else. So events are important. Last thing, real estate, okay? Every business I own today was built upon my real estate success. There is no social media if I don't have real estate success. Nobody's listening to me. Nobody's coming to WealthCon. We're not throwing 1,000-person events every quarter. It's all because of the real estate success. And because of that, it's allowed me to start other businesses with the same blueprint. So real estate is the foundation of everything I've created. And it's the foundation of many other successful entrepreneurs that aren't just real estate. In fact, I was watching a documentary on Netflix. Have any of you guys seen the Arnold documentary? It's pretty good. And he mentioned something I totally did not expect or know, and I wanted to put it up on the stage because I think it's really good. Can you guys show the clip of Arnold?
Joe Wheeler, after he brought me to America, taught me real estate is one of the greatest investments. I bought my first apartment building in the 70s, when there was huge inflation. And I knew right away what the potential was. And then I started buying office buildings on Main Street in Santa Monica. I became a millionaire in the 70s before I ever took off in the movie business. I did not have to take the roles to be a character actor. I said, what the fuck? I don't want to be a character actor. I want to be the leading man. I want to be the star. Just because there is difficulty, just because there's an obstacle, I don't care what it takes. I eventually will be up there with them. So I said to myself, those things that they say are an obstacle, I'm gonna make them not a liability, but an asset.
Pretty cool, right? We had to bleep out some of Arnold, but how many of you guys knew that about Arnold? I didn't. The dude was a real estate investor first. That's how he became a millionaire. It wasn't from Mr. Olympia, it wasn't from movies. He invested in real estate first. He took every dollar he made from all of his endorsements, threw it into real estate. He then, as he talks about later in that documentary, I'd highly recommend watching it, he talks about how he didn't have to take the roles that people wanted him to take. He got to be picky with what he did with his time because of real estate. Because he built that, he had the freedom to pursue what he wanted to pursue. And that's what I'm trying to explain here. If you guys build your business the right way, especially with real estate as the foundation, you can do what you want to do. If your calling is to go be a missionary, you can do that. If you want to make content, you can do that. You want to hang with your family, you can do that. You want to play golf, you can do that. You just have to have the right foundation to do it. And as I was thinking about that, I was getting hyped up watching that movie, or that documentary. I was like, you know what? Man, it's like I had this rejuvenation for real estate. I was like, I need to buy more. This is like what it's all about. And it made me think about another clip I saw. This is the last clip I want to show you to kind of set the stage. But cue the next clip from the founder.
So the operator selects the site.
Yeah.
He picks the property.
Right.
You provide the training, the system, the operational know-how, and he is responsible for the rest.
Is there a problem?
A big one. You don't seem to realize what business you're in. You're not in the burger business. You're in the real estate business. You don't build an empire off a 1.4% cut of a 15-cent hamburger. You build it by owning the land upon which that burger is cooked. What you ought to be doing is buying up plots of land, then turning around and leasing said plots to franchisees, who as a condition of their deal should be permitted to lease from you and you alone. This will provide you with two things. One, a steady upfront revenue stream. Money flows in before the first stake is in the ground. Two, greater capital for expansion, which in turn fuels further land acquisition, which in turn fuels further expansion, and so on, and so on. Land. That's where the money is. And more than that, control.
Amazing clip about the start. Yeah, round of applause. Amazing clip about the story of McDonald's. Ray Kroc, when he was franchising, was running out of money, and McDonald's was going to fail. He was making 1% of every hamburger. He couldn't run the business effectively. And he ends up meeting this guy at the bank, and he's like, dude, you don't realize it. You're not in the burger business. You're in the real estate business. If you just get these plots of land and force these guys to rent from you because they want to start McDonald's, you're going to make way more money over there than you would have on the burger sales. That's exactly what McDonald's did. I think McDonald's is, at one point, they were the largest holders of real estate in the entire world. It's crazy to think about, but that's what McDonald's did. And guess what? They didn't do it from just hustling and finding they did it because they had a system and a process, all the way from land acquisition to who they wanted to operate on that land, to then the systems and processes where, any McDonald's across the world can go, input a 16-year-old kid and he can figure it out. And that's what running a true business is. You have SOPs, processes, and everything else where anyone can plug and play. So we're gonna learn a lot about business and real estate this event. I'm super excited to announce this next speaker. This guy is the epitome of what it's like building an actual real estate business. He's done over 10,000 real estate deals. He currently does almost 100 deals a month. So you need a system to do that. So everyone give a big round of applause for my friend, Kent Clothier.
What's up, guys? How we doing? All right, I know it's early. Let's try it again. How we doing? All right. Well, guys, it is my pleasure to be here today. I am here to kind of kick this thing off a little bit and just jump right into it. So if you guys are play along with me here, I'm going to kind of maybe share a little bit about exactly what it has looked like in my journey, what I've learned over the last 35 years in business, 20 in real estate, and as Ryan said, kind of building, arguably, certainly a very large business, but probably just as importantly, building significant wealth. I mean, we are at WealthCon, aren't we? How many of you want to build wealth? Give me a hell yeah. All right, I'll tell you one of the most powerful things that I have learned in kind of over the years, what it takes to move from being a hustler to a CEO and creating massive wealth is one real important word. I want you to write it down, okay? And that is leverage. See, when we start out in business, most of us we don't come from a business background. And let me just break it down for you. How do you know if you're a hustler versus a CEO? Real simple. Leave. Go on vacation. Don't tell anybody. Leave for 2 months. And if you come back and there is more money in your bank account than when you left, you probably own a business. If you come back and it's anything short of that, your ass owns a job. You are a hustler. And I don't care if you're making $1 million, $5 million, or 50 grand. You are a glorified hustler if you do not have leverage. And leverage comes in all kinds of forms, right? But the bottom line is leverage equals wealth. You must get comfortable putting leverage in place. Leverage time. I'll give you a great example right now. You are here today, whether you realize it or not, to get leverage. Every one of you are here at some level to compress time. You want to get results faster. Is that a fair statement? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what are you doing? Hey, I want to come in here, I want to see Ryan, I want to see the speakers, I want to meet people, I want to figure out how to get there just a little bit quicker. That is trying to compress time. I'm trying to create a leverage point. Leverage money, pretty straightforward, right? Leverage people, leverage partners, leverage wisdom, insight. Me, been doing this in the real estate game for 20 years. As the saying goes, you do it wrong enough, long enough, you'll figure a few things out. I've done a lot of things wrong, I've done a lot of things right, but the wisdom and insight that somebody can gain by tapping into people like me, every one of these speakers up here, is powerful. And it is the way to create wealth. You must get comfortable understanding that the consumer way we typically think is actually the Achilles heel. Well, it is not an expense. It is an investment. Change your language, get comfortable with leverage, get comfortable really tapping into that, and you create significant wealth over time. We want to leverage assets, right? We want to leverage automation, we want to leverage systems, all that stuff. The bottom line is, without leverage, I'll tell you, everybody write it down. Without leverage, I don't care what your dream is, but if your dream is to be a successful business owner, to be wealthy, to create generational wealth, to change the fortune of your family, to be the one person. Oh man, Kim, the way I grew up, we never had money. What if you're the one? What if you're the one that's going to change the fortune of your family forever? How many of you want to be the one? Can I get a hell yeah? Hell yeah! It is reasonable to think that without different knowledge, different skills, different people, different partners, different way of thinking, the opportunity to do that and be the one can slip right through your fingers. So again, you must get comfortable with leverage. Now, those of you that don't know anything about me, I'll do the obligatory kind of little resume here. I started a business when I was 17 years old. I'm 53 right now. I built it up in the grocery arbitrage business, which means nothing to most people in here. But bottom line is I used to buy and sell, flip truckloads of groceries. And I started that when I was 17. By the time I was 30, we were doing $2 billion a year. Seventh largest privately held company in the state of Florida. Still exists today. I'm just not there. I got run out of there with my business partners. And from the age of 30, March 14th of 2000, from the age of 30 to 32, I proceeded to lose every single dollar I had ever made. Millions and millions of dollars. Would not wish it on my worst enemy. To say that it was devastating would put it pretty mildly, right? It was a very, very challenging time. So when any of you that are struggling, any of you that have struggled, by a show of hands, how many of you have ever struggled with anything in your life? Let me see it. Okay, right? We've all been there. And this was a struggle. And it kind of put me into a place because it wasn't bad enough to just lose the business, but because my entire identity was wrapped up in the business. I was the guy in my 20s that got up early, went to the office, nobody ever beat me there. I was there at 6 a.m., I didn't leave until 8 p.m. Never saw my young son, never saw my wife, and always convinced myself, wore it as a badge of honor, I'm doing this for them. Complete and utter BS. But that's what we tell ourselves as men. I'm gonna go do this. Absolutely the wrong way to do it. But luckily, burning all of that to the ground, it put me in a place where I was just humble enough to go into a room just like this. December of 2002, I was in a room like this. Somebody was on the stage talking about wholesaling. I had $4 grand in the bank. I made every bad financial decision for 2 years in a row, trying to build a new business. And they asked me to go spend $1,000 on a course on wholesaling. Any way you cut that was 25% of my net worth. It was some pretty scary stuff. But I did it, and it changed the rest of my life. Quickly started wholesaling houses, got really good at it. Before I knew it, wholesaling 200 or 300 houses a year. Started putting systems, processes, all the things Ryan was just talking about. Before you knew it, turned it into a substantial business, newly married. I was putting the systems in place because as I remarried and had a new little girl on the way, I knew I wanted to be with her. I did not want to make the same mistakes again. I knew, just like Ryan was talking about, I could not do that if I didn't put people and processes and leverage in place. And it worked. And as I sit here today, we flip about 800 to 900 houses a year. I've got a portfolio that's several $100 million. 8,000 properties we currently manage. Wholesale another 400 or 500 properties a year. And get the privilege of working with a lot of very, very high-level real estate investors from all over the world. Get the opportunity to invest in a lot of different assets. More importantly, get the opportunity to change the trajectory of my family. My wealth will live on long after me. By the way, guys, never went to college, barely graduated high school. It is not about more knowledge. It is about action. I will tell you, and I would invite you to write this down. Give me ignorance on fire versus knowledge on ice. The world is filled with overeducated, broke people. Equally, it is filled with wildly successful and wealthy dipshits. It's not about more knowledge. It's about getting comfortable taking action. It's about understanding what really moves the needle, right? It's about moving from the hustler mentality to the CEO mentality. It's about betting on yourself, pushing hard. When you're uncomfortable, you go further, right? In order for the CEO and the successful business owner to appear, here's your wake-up call. The hustler must die. The hustler side of your brain, again, you understand who the hustlers are and who they're not. It's very simple. The hustler side of your brain is the one that says, I can't slow down to train anybody. Nobody's going to care about my business as much as I do. Right? I can't do this. I gotta keep going. If I don't do this, then the money stops. The hustler's always going to fight for a seat at the table. But if you want to get wealthy, you have to silence that voice. The thing that got you here, the thing that's making you money now, the thing that's providing income, slowly has to turn that side of your brain off and recognize that rather than focus on obstacles, I want to focus on the opportunities of what life can be. Because it can be great. It can be amazing. So I will tell you, real estate is the single greatest way to build wealth. And why? Because it allows you to leverage both time and money. I want to spend a minute talking about really what it really boils down to. It's time. Look, we can't change the future. The future does not exist. Everybody understand that? This is the moment. All we have is right now. It doesn't exist. What we get the opportunity to do is create it. You get to create your future. When you understand that, you recognize that there's an opportunity every single day to do that, it gets pretty exciting. Everybody break out your phone real quick. Break out your phone and put it in the calculator app. I'm going to give you a couple things real quick that will absolutely make you get focused on the right things and get the most out of this event. There'll be a lot of really powerful people up here talking about highly tactical stuff. The reality of this is, I've been doing this a long time. A lot of knowledge will come up here. If you don't get this right, the most powerful tool you've got, all that knowledge will fall on deaf ears. You must get in the right headspace to do this. And I'm going to give you a way to do that right now. Everybody got your calculator out? If you're a woman, I want you to put the number 82 in there. If you're a man, I want you to put 78. And I want you to subtract your current age. Now, if you needed the calculator to do that, you probably have bigger problems than that. But let's make it a little interesting. Multiply that times 365. Who's got a number for me? Go ahead. 12,410. What? 21,000? Fucking 18? 19. Maybe better. I got it. What you have just calculated is how many days you have left on this planet. Statistically speaking. And I don't care who you are. That number's too small. Take that number, multiply it times 0.67. Reasonable to assume you will be asleep 8 hours a day. You're doing it right. You have just calculated how many waking days where you get to experience the day. How many waking days you have left on this planet. Now, if you want to be a savage, you want to understand the power of this moment. The time is now, making things happen, getting out of your own head. I would tell you, when you leave here today, go get a dry erase marker. And wherever it is, in your home, your apartment, your condo, whatever, go write that number on the mirror. Where you brush your teeth, comb your hair, put your makeup on. And every day, you get the privilege and honor of erasing that last digit and counting it down. Watching your life tick away and knowing you have an opportunity every day to do something amazing and making a conscious decision that today I just don't feel like it, or it's a choice. I promise you, that will get you moving real quick. There's 900,000 people in hospital beds today praying that they could be in a room like this. There's 3 billion people on the planet that do not have access to clean water or clean sanitation. They do not live where we live. They don't have access to the tools, the technology to get into a room like this. Your worst day is somebody else's best. The people are trained to do what we do, ladies and gentlemen. It's reckless and irresponsible to not wring everything out of life that you possibly can right now, because it's doable. can completely do this. When you see these people up here talking, giving you information, immerse yourself in this. Challenge yourself to walk out of here and take massive, massive action. If it doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. Anybody can do this. Second thing I'll tell you to do. Build what you deserve. How many of you believe with everything inside of you that you deserve an amazing, amazing life? Can I get a hell yeah? Now, my men in the room, how many of you are married? Let me see your hands. If your wife called you today and said, I need you to stop and get a few things from the grocery store, would it stop there? Now, you're smart enough to say, can you tell me what a few things are? I want you to get some milk. Okay? How about you send me a picture of the milk that you want? Because last time I checked, they're milking every nut on the planet. I mean, it's like a whole thing. It's like everything's a milk now. Tell me exactly what you want. Why do we do that? Happy wife, happy life. We understand. What you definitely don't do is you don't go walking up and down the aisle in the grocery store and get a little this, a little this, get a little this, get a little this, come back and dump it out on the kitchen counter and say, is any of this the shit you wanted? You would look like a moron. That's what most of you are doing with your life. Something as simple as going to the grocery store, we understand the assignment. Something as profound as what do I want my life to look like? Most of us have never taken the time to say, this is what I want. This is the destination. When you coming in here, you Ubered, you drove, whatever, what's the one thing you did? Plug that destination in, didn't you? Got turn-by-turn directions to get here. Get a little off track, pulls you back over. We do this every day. We don't do it with our business. We don't do it with our life. Start with the end in mind. What do you want? Decide. You decide what you want your life to look like. And you become super intentional. I want to create passive income. I want to know that $100,000 is showing up in my bank account every month. I want to create impact in the world. I want to spend my days doing what I want to hang out with my kids. I want to change my community. I want to, whatever that looks like, that's the destination. Where you are is where we're starting from, right? And I need turn-by-turn directions. That is where the leverage comes in. How do I get there as fast as humanly possible? Give me the route. Ryan, whoever, Ken, whoever. What is the route? What are the turn-by-turn directions to get there? Because I don't want to waste any time. I got 10,000 days left. I want to spend 9,999 of them doing whatever the hell I want to do. I don't want to bang around and try to figure it out. Get me there. I want the fast pass. I will tell you, it is simple, but it is not easy. You have to have a dogged determination to be successful in business. You must decide now. Act like tomorrow's not going to come. Now. Today. This moment. What do I want? And what am I willing to do? What are the actions I'm willing to take? How far am I willing to push myself to go and make that happen? But the bottom line is get there as fast as humanly possible. Because the clock is ticking. Last time I checked, in the history of the world, nobody got out alive. Knowing that you have an expiration date, that we all do, should be the single greatest motivation for why you want to get into real estate, why you want to build a business. Think of the leverage in real estate, guys. When you have a portfolio of properties that are producing passive cash flow for you, and before your foot hits the floor in the morning, that tens of thousands of dollars are showing up whether you get out of bed or not, every month. At that point, do you understand that you literally now get to control time? that my time is mine now. You know, I'm a 53-year-old man. I live in La Jolla, California. My office is 2,000 yards from my house. I skateboard to work. I'm a 53-year-old man skateboarding, and I don't give a shit. Right? I walk my little 9-year-old girl to school every day. It is a choice. You decide and you do what it takes to get there. Simple, but not easy. I will tell you that, you know, if I picked up the phone today and I said, Ryan, I got this great idea, man. I want to be the greatest MMA fighter in the world. I've read every book. I've listened to every podcast. I've attended every live event. And I've watched every YouTube video. I think I'm ready. Somebody call Dana White. Let's go. You'd be like, dude, you've lost your damn mind. If I wanted to be a great MMA fighter, what's the one thing that I certainly have to get comfortable doing? Fighting. Which clearly means I have to go in the ring. And if I go in the ring, what am I prepared to happen? I'm about to get hit. A lot. I'm gonna get choked out. I'm gonna get punched in the face, bloody noses, broken bones. It's gonna be rough. And then I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna go to the corner. My coach is gonna tell me what I did wrong, maybe watch a little film, and then I'm gonna get right back in there. Because I have a destination in mind. This is how champions are created. Can we all agree? Give me a hell yeah. Yeah. Welcome to business. Why most people fail, in my humble opinion. You are not walking into it ready to get hit, ready to get punched in the face, ready to get knocked down. Perfection is the enemy. Mediocrity is the enemy. If you want to be great, there's only one way to be great. Action. I want to become a champion as fast as it can be done, which means I need to get in the ring as often as I can. I need to get very uncomfortable. I need to be prepared to get hit. I need to be prepared to get knocked out, knocked down. But one thing's for sure, my ass is getting back up. Because that's how a champion is made. You're in here. You've made this investment. I would encourage you to understand very clearly that getting the result as fast as you can is the action or the outcome you're looking for. The action means that you have to go in and get real uncomfortable. You got to push really hard. And the reason is those days that are sitting on that mirror that you're counting down, every one of them. And your kids are watching you struggle. Your kids are watching you fight. Your kids, you're changing everything about them. I can tell you, my kids are significantly different than their friends. I'm a little intense. And my kids are a little intense. I have an 18-year-old girl that just graduated, moving to Manhattan in 2 months to go to college. And I think I'm more freaked out than she is. She's like, I got it, let's do this, bring it on. I'm like, my friends are like, man, dude, you've raised an amazing kid that is ready to take on the world. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. And she's just soaked up that life is there. There is no nobility in playing small. That little voice that tells you I'll get to it next week, next month, or he's not really talking to me. I'm talking to you, bitch. Right now. This is your moment. One last thing. People ask me how I kind of got to this. And losing a business was a big thing. Having a mentor and holding his hand as he passed away with tens of millions of dollars in the bank and watching him travel the world and always at the expense of his family. Holding his hand and realizing he had all this money. He was such a young man. And realized he put off his family, his friends, and the things that really mattered. Always telling himself, I'll just get to it, but I gotta make all the money first. And then him dying, holding my hand, passing away from cancer, and him writing, hooked up to a respirator, writing on a whiteboard. I just wish I had more time. But those tens of millions of dollars couldn't buy him the one thing he really wanted, another minute. Because you think this is about money. It's not, it's about time. But the one thing I'll share with you that really changed me was that happened 10 years ago, to be on an airplane with my young wife, or my wife and my young daughter. We were split up, two different parts of the plane, because we booked our itineraries at different times. Flying home from speaking like this, and in Atlanta, flying to West Palm Beach, Florida is where we lived at the time. And we're somewhere over North Florida, 30,000 feet in the air, and the plane fills with smoke. And it's coming at me hard, coming right down. Buzzers are going off. Wah, 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 wah. Flight attendant comes on and freaks out. Oh my God, ladies and gentlemen, please return your seats. We're on fire, we're on fire. I'm like, definitely not what you want to hear. This little bullshit where they go like, it's go, oh, we're going to do this like none of that. No, they didn't go down like that. And they put the plane, captain puts the plane into a nose valve immediately because that's what you do. The plane's on fire. Did not know that. By the way, that is not on that little card. If we're on fire, we're going to scare the shit out of you and put it into a nose valve. That's not right. Everybody's screaming. But the only scream I get to hear is my 5-year-old daughter, who just turned 18, screaming for daddy. And she's 6 rows behind me and I can't get to her. Worst moment of my life. Masks are dropping. It is pure mayhem. And the captain came on. I gotta be careful of this stuff. Captain came on, and it's exactly who we wanted to be. Ladies and gentlemen, we appear to have a problem. No shit. We're going to make an emergency landing in Tampa, Florida. They are clearing the tarmac, and I want you to listen to your flight attendants. I'll tell you exactly what to do. You're going to hear 3 commands: brace for impact, brace for impact, brace for impact. Nothing you ever want to hear. And I took my phone out and filmed a video to my son, hoping that he would find it, or they would find it, and give it to him, knowing that I was thinking of him when I died. Look to my wife, she's in tears, across all the heads, and we say goodbye. Now clearly, I'm here. It all worked out. We landed, got off the plane, and of course the gate agent, stereotypical gate agent, is completely clueless. We're all sitting there trying to figure out what the next steps are as we get off the plane. It's like, ladies and gentlemen, I heard we have a little problem. Maintenance is going to take a look at your plane, and then we're going to get you right back up. Not happening. No, thank you. Never rented a car so fast in my life. I drove from Tampa to West Palm, but I had the ultimate moment of clarity. It can all disappear in a second, guys. This is your moment. This is what matters. This is what matters. The time is now. And I don't wear a fancy watch. I wear a bracelet that says the time is now. Funny thing is, that bitch is always right. Greatest watch I've ever had. This is your moment. I want to encourage you to take massive action. Do whatever it takes. Fight for your dreams. Get really, really dedicated and determined and intentional with what you're trying to create, because it is doable. I'm out of here, guys. I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it some love, Nick Williams! And every time I see him speak, I start reviewing all these bullet points in my business. Was anybody doing that? Like, man, I gotta work on this, and I gotta work on this, and I gotta work on this, and that's okay. We got work to do. That's why we're here, to put in the work. So, how many people got a takeaway out of that? How many people are with me where you saw something that you were going to work on? Give yourself a round of applause, because that means you're paying attention. That means you're into it. You're zeroed in. And he was talking about going from hustler to CEO. We all go through stages in business, right? How many people might be in the hustler stage right now? A couple people out there? That's okay. How many people are moving into that working on your business stage? Yeah? A lot of you guys? How many people just aren't going to raise their hand no matter what I say? Cool. Love you guys too. It's all good. You know? But I'm here to have a great time, and I'm here to learn with you guys. I'm a student of the game. I've learned face to face from, as you even saw from my slides, I keep it real with you guys. Some of the biggest names in the entire industry. Some of the biggest names that have ever done it. And that's why we're here, to be in the right room. And so, we want to pivot, and we want to show you how to buy back your time. Because if you're really going to go from hustler to CEO, well, something's got to be wedged in the middle to make that happen. Because if you're not doing every single little thing, we got to figure out how to make sure that stuff gets done, or we cannot ascend. Personally, we cannot ascend financially, and we cannot ascend mentally. So we're going to bring him up, but I need everybody to stand up. We're going to get a super clap going. Let's wake it up, Las Vegas. Everybody on your feet.